Hi everyone, welcome to another exciting week right here on NECA Live. I am David Mead, I'm your host on this show where we talk about all of the exciting things and two exciting people from all around the world of NECA to give you the latest and greatest of what this incredible association has to offer. Part of the latest and greatest is the NECA Podcast Network, which is growing every single week as we speak. This very show is part of the NECA Podcast Network. NECA Live is available every Thursday wherever you get your podcasts. If you are listening to us as part of the podcast right now, thank you so much. But be sure to tell a friend or colleague this is the best place to find out all of the new news, innovations, and information from the team at NECA. Of course, we will always be live here on LinkedIn every single Monday. And don't forget, we're also on Facebook and on YouTube as well, if you happen to be on those platforms. Podcasts really are a tremendous way to reach any audience. And that is certainly true of NECA. Even before NECA National got involved, chapters around the US have started finding new and inventive ways to reach their members. One example is the St. Paul chapter, and today we're going to be joined by Andrew Colvard, the St. Paul chapter's Assistant Executive Director, who is the host of a chapter-specific podcast called The St. Paul Circuit. It's a flipping good title, if you don't mind me saying. So to discuss this, along with all of the new and exciting ways that chapters can get involved, Andrew is here, along with Ian Andrews, a NECA Field Representative from the Midwest region. So I am delighted to welcome both of them. We've got Ian Andrews and Andrew Colvard. This is like an Andrew sandwich. We're so excited to have so many Andrews. If we need 3 more Andrews, and I think we hockey team of some sort. Gentlemen, happy Monday. Thank you for joining us. Ian, how was your weekend?
Hey, happy Monday. Thanks for having us. Really good. How about yourself?
Oh, it was fan-dabby-dozy. What about you, Andrew? What did you get up to at the weekend?
It was good. We tried to stay warm here in Minnesota. It was below 0 weather. So a little bit of hockey, though, for you. I like that you mentioned that right away.
Yeah, and you know what? Below 0 in Ireland, I think that's below 5,000 for us here because we're on centigrade. Yeah. So I hope that you're staying nice and warm. Well, it is wonderful to have both of you with us. I really appreciate your time, and I know the audience are really keen to hear from you. Andrew, I'm going to start with you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what inspired your podcast and its whole journey to coming alive to fruition?
Yeah, so like you said, the St. Paul Circuit, it kind of started. Luke Cool, who is the executive director of the St. Paul chapter, and I were just discussing the newsletter that we were writing each week and sending out industry alerts. We kind of got sick of writing them, to be honest. That's really where it came from. I have a podcast background, a communication background, so we just said, let's just see if we can verbally get this information out. We did it as a 3 to 4 minute podcast to start, and it's just here's what's happening in the industry. Here's what's happening locally, events coming up. And it kind of took off. I mean, a lot of our contractors said, we like this more. We find it easier to listen to, easier to actually get ourselves to take in the information. So, and then we've just done it ever since. I think it's personally easier than doing a newsletter as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, from a content point of view, the time that it takes to sit down to write something, to rinse and repeat to get the approval. And also, frankly, contractors are busy these days. If they have to sit down and read a document, whether it's on a screen or printed out, and we know NECA contractors love a nice printed document. They're big fans, huge, as am I, frankly. But being able to listen to it on the way to a project, on the way to a meeting, to pop it on your headphones during lunch, it makes it so much easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's what they all said right away. They said, we send it out Friday afternoon, and they said they listened to it on the way home. And, we get an email maybe on Friday night saying, hey, thank you for this. Can you follow up on Monday morning? Or Monday morning, they'll look at their inbox and say, all right, this is what's happening, and here's what I can ask. So they have found it a lot easier, I guess, to just take it in general. They don't have to read anything, like you said. They enjoy the listening portion.
Do you know one thing that really strikes me is, did it feel at all, Andrew, like a risk at the time? Like this was a big step change in the way that you connected with members? Because we know that it has really resonated and it has been hugely successful. Have you been surprised at all? And what do you think is making it really connect with your audience?
We're a little bit surprised at the way that everybody took it at the beginning. We have a young board of directors. They are all about the innovation, and both Luke and I are on the younger side of chapter managers in NECA, and they gave us the reins and said, run with it. Here, we'll back you guys and we'll support it. We'll say that we like it to others, whether they like it or not, who knows. But they, they bought it and they said, just keep going with it. And as members, a lot reached out and said, thank you. Some listened to just the first 2 minutes because that's the information they need. Others listen to the whole thing and like it. Others ask for more. So it really was a bit of a surprise, but ever since it's just grown and grown, like you said.
Well, I am so pleased to see it being so well received and so successful. And I think it has really whetted the appetite of the entire industry for more things like this, whether it's our NECA LinkedIn Lives that we do, whether it's a podcast. And Ian, over to you on the national level. NECA has taken a renewed interest in the stories of how people have gotten into the industry, what drives them, etc. Can you discuss what is it about these stories that makes them so powerful? And why should people consider sharing them with us?
Yeah, they're firsthand accounts, right? These are tried and true stories from industry veterans. They have lived the trials and tribulations. They're here today. They're not starting from square zero. So I think, it's really important that we get them out there. They're going to help spark ideas across the industry. They're going to help us avoid making the same mistakes across the industry. They're going to help us learn. They're going to help us grow. And I think also equally important, they're really good to help establish that pathway from somebody new in the industry at point A. And when they want to get to point B, how do you achieve that? There's a wealth of information within our contractors out there that we just need to get out there. They're really good at sharing within their own group, but we got to have a platform for more of the country to hear from them.
And the podcasts are wonderful ways of bringing it alive. No, I'm going to challenge our viewers because we've got a lot of viewers here. And we've got Leslie coming in from beautiful Las Vegas. Nice to see you again. We've got Johannes coming in from Saskatoon. What a great name. Jeffrey is coming in from San Bernardino. Jeffrey has just made it in time. Jeffrey, we're delighted that I hope you're skipping lunch, Jeffrey, to join us here. Ryan is coming in from Fargo as well. And guys, I don't know if you know this or not, but it's not a NECA Live unless we have Kelly Lamb in the room. So Kelly, thanks for joining us. For all of our viewers, let us know inside the comments, what was your starting story? How did you get into the industry, into the space? Was it in your family? Was it in your blood? Were you drawn to the sector? Let us know inside the comments, and we'll have an opportunity to reflect on a few of them as we get back. Andrew Colvard, the podcasts are a great way to share these stories, aren't they? To give them wider access to the community and to perhaps inspire people to hear stories of others who have moved through the industry and had ambition. Podcasts are a wonderful way to make these reach new ears.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at the past year where fortunately NECA's had to cancel a lot of live events and in-person. Everybody talks about the networking aspect of these events, and it's a great thing. But when you don't have it, you don't get that institutional knowledge from having a conversation with a contractor who's been doing it for 40 years. And that's where I think with NECA Podcast Network, it's going to be great for contractors to just listen to somebody else have a conversation with somebody who's been in it for 40 years. They can put themselves in that conversation, right? That they can say like, oh, that's a question I would ask, or here's something I'm wondering. Maybe I can reach out to that host and say, could you ask this question? It's a great tool to really reach an audience that is so, in this case, global. Like you look at us three right now, it's Ian and I are close, but we're talking to you live and you're not so close to us right now.
Yeah, I'm coming from Jupiter, not the one in Florida. But yeah, I suppose, Ian, I'm curious as well. These stories are powerful too, not only when it comes to exploring how people got started in the industry, but also how their career developed, how they became mid-level and senior level leaders, how they built their own ambition and in some cases built their businesses. These stories are really helpful to share from a leadership point of view as well.
They are. Like you said, everybody has to start somewhere, but to get to those points, that took time, that took energy, that took learning. And I think, this podcast and reaching out to different generations, it's a great way to connect existing generations and existing leaders into that new leadership group and help the new leadership group grow. They're the future of the electrical construction industry. They're the future NECA members. We need to understand them. We need to help them grow. We need to know their wants, need to know their needs. And this is a great way to just connect and build that bridge. 20 years from now, when we're all sitting around the table, we got to have those answers. We need to be moving forward, not looking back saying, well, let's reach out to somebody that's no longer in the picture, and how do we learn from them? So I think this is a great way to help build that workforce up, build those new people up, and just help everybody grow and learn from each other in the process.
Yeah, so true. And I think one thing that I'm really inspired by at the moment is how close the chapters are getting involved with NECA National. Can you tell us a little bit about working on both sides of the relationship with the chapters and NECA National? What are some of the opportunities that exist for chapters at the moment to achieve great things?
Yeah, so when I started with NECA, what feels like a lifetime ago now, I was with the Illinois chapter. They've got a great executive there in Billy. And he was really in touch with his members and their needs. And he always found a way to supplant what they were doing locally with the national office, be that involved labor relations, education, government affairs, codes and standards, safety. There was just always something out there on that platform, right? And so now being on the field side of things, it's really cool to see that same model work all the way across the country. And I could just say, communicate, communicate, communicate. We're all working together, and we need to understand each other at the highest level possible. Something that really stuck with me this past week was on a call with the executive from Boston, and she made the comment, you know, NECA National's got all these great services. We're doing all these great things. We've got this innovation overload and all these awesome opportunities for our members, but it's not any good if we don't take the chapters with us. And I thought that was so on point, because we've got to work together. You know, we've got all these resources in our own silo, but unless we're doing stuff hand in hand, we're just not as strong as we could be. So, you know, if you're a chapter that's not strongly connected, I recommend let's bridge that gap. You know, the future is now, and let's start working together. And if you are doing that now, keep doing it. You know, there's so many great things happening across the chapters. We could do this for hours talking about how great and how innovative and how forward thinking and how well we're all working together out there. So it's just really exciting to see both levels of it, being in the chapter and in the field now.
Yeah, absolutely. Andrew, the synergy that we achieve by joining up all of the effort, all of the ambition, all of the innovation, and the connections. I mean, ultimately, NECA is all about connections, isn't it? And I mean that without the obvious pun. If we were to be able to get all of our chapters mobilized, pointing in the same direction, the impact would be extraordinary.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like you said, the connections and the collaboration that can happen between chapters. I know in districts 4 and 7 with NECA, we have a call once a month, and it's just a chance for people to talk about what's going on in their local. And, you know, somebody from maybe dealt with the same problem 5 years ago. Well, it's a chance to collaborate, and we do it all virtually. You know, it doesn't take that one meeting every year to everybody talk about this and hash it out in 3 days. Like, we can do it once a month, and you get a lot more out of it. And something Luke and I both have tried to continue to do is, like with Ian was mentioning, connect with anybody around NECA anywhere. And they've all been through it. Everybody's kind of doing the same thing, just in a different area. So that collaboration and that growth in collaboration technology in general is huge for NECA and especially the industry and growth.
Well, you know, I think we should use this as an opportunity now to throw down the gauntlet, to set a challenge to everyone listening out there now, whether you're watching us live, whether you're listening back as part of the NECA podcast network. We want to hear your stories. Ian and Andrew, for both of you, what would you say to a chapter staff member or some member companies that are out there listening and thinking, hey, do you know what? I have a good story. I think this might light a fire under some people. Ian, I'll go to you first. What would you say to someone out there? What's their recommendation to bring this story to you guys?
Reach out. You know what? There's almost 4,000 electrical contractor NECA members. You can multiply how many people are working underneath each contractor and look at how many voices could be heard. Reach out to your chapter manager, reach out to your field rep. Give your voice a platform. You know, it can be intimidating putting yourself out for the world, but NECA is a pretty safe place, and we want to give your voice a platform. We want to make sure you're heard. You don't know the impact that you could have on your own life or somebody else's life by just getting your story out there for somebody in your backyard, across the country, or down in Jupiter, Florida. So reach out. Let's make it happen.
Andrew, you must be excited to hear all of the new stories that we hope will come in soon.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, as Ian mentioned, you don't know who could use that information. And it's just, you know, like you asked the question, were you nervous about putting out the podcast? Did it not start? And it's kind of like, you just got to go for it. At some point, you know, you got to take that risk. And really, if the risk doesn't have a huge negative side to it, for us, it would have just been going back to writing a newsletter, which we're still doing the same thing. We're getting that information out. So I would agree with chapters, chapter managers, any contractors, reach out, and just say, hey, I have an idea, or I would like to share this, and somebody in NECA will help you. That's pretty much a guarantee anywhere.
Absolutely. Well, look, Ian and Andrew, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We will see you back here for another NECA Live really soon, I'm sure. And Andrew, for goodness sake, put a coat on, get a scarf, and if you're really cold, have a small drink, just a little one, Andrew, just a small one. It's medicinal. I consider it a prescription. I'm Irish. I mean, we have it breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So stay safe, both of you, and I'll catch up with you really soon.
You should. Thank you for having us.
Oh, thanks, guys. So there we have it. Thank you so much to both of them for taking the time. And I hope you as an audience are genuinely inspired to reach out and have your stories heard. There are lots more details to come on all of these stories, no doubt. And if you're part of the St. Paul chapter, please do us a favor and listen to Andrew's incredible St. Paul's circuit. And if you're not as part of that chapter, look it up on your podcast anyway. You still might find it interesting. I notice we have a comment in from Leslie is asking, where can we find the podcast? Leslie, go to your favorite podcast provider. If you're an Android person, then you can find it through that platform. Or if, like me, you're a cool kid, and Leslie, I feel like you might be. If you're an Apple person, then go to Apple Podcasts, search for the NECA Podcast Network, and you'll find a whole host of information in there. And also, anybody watching or listening to this podcast, you can check out the NECA Podcast Network featuring this show, NECA Live, but also Innovation Overload, Labored Thoughts, and much more to come. And we've always got brand new ideas for you coming here at NECA. So if you're watching this live on Monday, we need you to know that registration opens tomorrow for the Women in NECA Future Leaders Conference. And if you're hearing this after February 9, need to let you know that registration is already open. You do not want to miss out on this virtual meeting that's taking place March 9th and 10th. It's really easy to put inside your diary. It starts every day at 1 p.m. Eastern, and this conference is going to include a ton of industry-leading speakers, breakout sessions, roundtables, networking, and more. There is no better place for you to upskill and think big about the year ahead. All of the content will be available on demand. However, if you want to get the most out of the content, if you want to interact with the speakers and other attendees, you have got to attend live. Live is where it's at. So register now and make sure that you do not miss a single thing. So as ever, thank you so much for tuning in. However you choose to do so, whether it's live with me on LinkedIn or as part of the NECA Podcast Network, I will see you next time on another exciting NECA Live.